Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the continuation of the previous lecture, in this video I will discuss the literature in the medieval period. First we will discuss the languages of the time. Latin was the language of the Roman Catholic Church which dominated whole of the Europe. The church was the only source of education at that time. Thus Latin was a common language for medieval writings. If we see the breakup of languages, Latin was used mostly in churches and schools. French was used in court and castle. English was the language of the commoners. Catholic clerics were the intellectual center of society in the Middle Ages, and it is their literature that was produced in the greatest quantity. A notable amount of medieval literature is anonymous. Medieval authors often tended to retell and embellish stories they heard or read rather than invent new stories. Two major impacts on England as a result of the feudal systems were form and manners. Form, better known as knighthood. The institution of knighthood was firmly based on the ideas of loyalty. He is honored, bound to accept a challenge that he knows could bring death. The second impact was manners, code of chivalry, courtly love, a system of ideas and behavior codes that governed both knight and the gentlewoman. The knights of the time. Expected to serve as warriors, males above the serf class were trained as knights. A knight's first obligation was to defend his lord, the king, and the Christian faith. Training began in boyhood and ended in the vows of loyalty to a lord. A knight's equipment were horse, weapons, armor. That armor used to be very expensive, so most knights came from wealthy noble families. Knights defended their lord's interests, property and family, and responded to the king's call to arms in the event of war. Loyalty was the most important code of the knights. The knight and his horse were considered invulnerable. On the completion of the training, the boys, who were called pages or squires, were dabbed on the shoulder. Once knighted, the youth became a man with the title Sir and the full rights of the warrior's caste. Knights lived by a code of chivalry that governed their conduct in all situations. What is chivalry? Chivalry is from the French word chevalier, meaning horseman or knight. This was a precursor of the notion a gentleman and a soldier, or simply a gentleman. Mostly nobles were granted knighthood, and although today anyone can be knighted, the service to the king and country can take on many forms today. Chivalric code. A product of feudalism, chivalry was an idealized system of manners and morals. The medieval knight was bound to the chivalric code to be loyal to God or faith, even if it meant death. Loyal to his lord, even if it meant death. Loyal to his lady, act with courtesy. Chivalric ideals include benevolence, acts of kindness, fairness in battle, politeness, courtly love. Courtly love, we will discuss courtly love now. Here we can see a lady and a knight. The courtly love, men, mostly the knights, idolized women, mostly the ladies. Wore the colors of his lady in battle to glorify her in words and be inspired by her. This love for a woman was thought to make the knight a better warrior. The knight's love for lady inspires him to do great deeds in order to be worthy of her love or to win her favor. The knight serves his courtly lady with the same loyalty which he owes to his lord. He is in complete control and remains pure. Courtly love was non-sexual, as usually it remained unconsummated. Courtly love was not between husband and wife because it was an idealized sort of relationship that could not exist within the context of real life medieval marriages. In the Middle Ages, marriages amongst the nobility were typically based on practical and dynastic concerns rather than on love. Courtly love provided built in drama for a poet or storyteller. Chivalry gave rise to a new form of literature that was called romance. Quest. A quest is a hero's journey towards a goal. The objects of quests require great exertion on the part of the hero and the overcoming of many obstacles. The hero must obtain something or someone by the quest and with this object return home. Here we can see he's been sent on a quest. Characteristics or some salient features of medieval literature. The themes of the medieval texts had moral, ethical, and didactic contents of Christianity that were supervised by the church. Every piece of literature of the time was imbibed with these characteristics. First comes heroism. From both Germanic and Christian traditions, sometimes mingled. Divine descent or accomplished. Presentation of idealized behavior. As we have discussed in the previous slide, literature as moral lesson, loyalty to king, chivalry. Christian message was, was an important part of every piece of literature. Concern with salvation and the world to come, no interest in social change. Until the late 14th century, Chaucer signals new thinking, upending social order. Major literary forms. First comes romance, fable, fabliau, allegorical poem, lyric, ballad, drama. Romance, a narrative in prose or verse form in which a brave knight must overcome great danger for the love of a noble lady or higher idea, was the most popular form of medieval literature. Exploits of knights, often a supernatural element involved. A number of romances were based on Celtic legends, especially those about King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. The finest romance in verse written by unknown poet is Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Fable. Fable is a short tale to teach a moral lesson, often with animals as characters. Fabliau, a medieval tale in verse characterized by comic treatment of themes drawn from life. Originally a form adopted from French models. A comic tale with a plot that usually involves a husband deceived by unfaithful wife. The plots are realistically motivated, tricks and ruses. Characters include peasants, tradesmen, greedy clergy, restless young wives, and young scholars. The fabliau thus present a lively image of everyday life among the middle and lower classes. Allegorical poem, a poem in which abstract ideas and principles are described in terms of characters, figures, and events. Allegories often have a strong moral lesson. Much of medieval literature relied on allegory to convey the morals the author had in mind while writing. Representations of abstract qualities, events, and institutions are thick in much of the literature of this time. Lyric poetry. English lyric poetry developed from the lyre playing. Poets often strummed lyres as they recited their verse. Lyric poems fall into two categories. Secular topics are usually love or nature. Many celebrate the renewal of spring or the joy of summer. Religious consist of hymn praising God or a prayer of supplication. Ballad, a poem that tells a story, often about love, may be performed as a song. Ballads were merely oral until the 18th century. Troubadours. Troubadours were traveling composers and performers. They mostly sang songs and recited poems of courtly love and chivalry. In a time when few could read and books were hard to come by, troubadours played an important role in the spread of literature throughout Europe. Though few of their songs were ever recorded, troubadours helped shape the literary culture of the Middle Ages. Next comes medieval drama. Church offered sponsored plays as part of religious services. In time, they moved from the church to the marketplace. Theatre gained in popularity and were normally performed on a wagon of a fixed scaffold. These are some of the famous kinds of medieval drama. Mysteries or miracle plays. Early plays were known as mysteries or miracles. These plays became very popular. They were based on biblical stories. Their themes mostly were of the creation of man and his fall and banishment from Eden, the life of Christ, and the day of judgment aspect of the lives of saints. The other popular form of medieval drama was morality plays. Morality plays featured a hero who must overcome evil, were allegorical in nature. These plays have uniform theme of the struggle between good and evil with the intent to teach right living and uphold religion. An example of a 15th century English morality play is Everyman. Folk plays, often performed at such holidays as Christmas, New Year, and May Day, incorporated remnants of pagan rituals like mummers, Morris dancers, etc. Notable authors of the time. John Wycliffe. He translated Bible into Middle English in 1382. He was called the Morning Star of Reformation. He was the initiator of Lollard's movement in 1377. William Langland. William Langland was called Poet of People. He wrote Vigio Wilhelmi di Petro Ploman, the visions of William concerning Piers the Plowman in 1370 to 90. It was a dream political allegory. It's a dream vision actually contains 8 dreams with 2 additional dreams within the dreams. It is a satire on the clergy of time. Piers Plowman's theme is to threaten the abuse of government and vices of clergy. It deals with the search for the true Christian life. Maybe autobiographical, written from a Catholic. John Gower. In 1385, Gower's good friend Geoffrey Chaucer dedicated the Royalists and Cresside to him, giving him the epithet Moral Gower. Allegorical poetry, ballads, collection of tales in Middle French and Latin. He wrote these books, Mirror d'Homme, Mirror of Man, in 1376 to 79. It was an allegorical poem in French meditating on the fall of man and the effect of sin on the world. Gower Latinized the title to Speculum Hominis and later changed it to Speculum Meditatentis to fit with the titles of his later works. Vox Clamentis, the clamoring voice. It was an essay in Latin elegiac verse. Like the Speculum Meditatentis, it too treats of sinfulness and criticizes the corruption of the society. It also provides a contemporary view of the peasants' revolt of 1381. Gower takes an entirely aristocratic side in the poem regarding the peasants' claim as invalid and their actions as following the Antichrist. Confessio Amantis, written in 1386, Lover's Confession as it is translated into English. Most acclaimed work of him, wrote in English at the request of Richard II, a collection of tales and exemplar treating of courtly love. A framework that of a lover complaining first to Venus, and later in the work confessing to her priest genius. This is Gower's portrait. Next comes the man of the age, Geoffrey Chaucer. Chaucer was born in 1340 in London. The name Chaucer was from French origin and meant shoemaker. He was the son of a wine merchant and deputy to the king's butler. Little known about his education, he could read French, Latin, and Italian. Was appointed to the household of the Countess of Ulster in 1357 and started his royal services since then. Chaucer worked as a government official under three different kings. He had a high social status. He did odd jobs like page, courtier, diplomat, civil servant, scrap metal collector, controller of customs. He traveled all over Europe, was frequently sent to the continent on diplomatic and secret business for the king. In 1359-60, Chaucer was captured by the French at the siege of Reims as a prisoner of war during the Hundred Years' War. King Edward III, a year later, paid his ransom, that was £2,400. Chaucer got married in 1366. Especially in Italy, he met Boccaccio and Petrarch in 1372-73, much influenced by the Italian humanists such as Dante. Chaucer died in 1400 of unknown causes, though murder suspected. Chaucer was one of the first writers to be buried in the Poets' Corner in Westminster Abbey. Chaucer's monument was erected in 1555. This is Chaucer's monument. His literary contributions are, as he is often called, the father of English poetry. In literature, the medieval period is also called the Age of Chaucer. Most scholars still wrote in Latin at that time. They felt English lacked sophistication and had a limited vocabulary, only local stories and ballads written in English. Chaucer wrote in the vernacular or language of the commoners, that is now known as Middle English. He used rhythmic patterns. He introduced the iambic pentameter. We find lack of alliteration in his works. Best known for the Canterbury Tales, but also produced several other works. Chaucer's main works. Chaucer's works are divided into three periods. First comes the French period. During the French period, he wrote poems modeled on French Romance styles and subjects like translation work, Romance of the Rose. It had 22,000 lines, whereas Chaucer translated only 8,000 lines before 1373, which introduces the reader into medieval court behavior in relation to courtly love. Narrative poem, The Book of Duchess, 1369, a personal elegy in which the knight in black tells of his grief for the loss of his wife, and this grief is then made the universal grief of all men for the death of all young good wives. Written after death of Blanche, Duchess of Lancaster, first wife of John Gaunt. Then starts the second period of Geoffrey Chaucer, that is Italian period. It starts from 1370 to 1385. House of Fame, written in 1383, a masterpiece of comic fantasy dealing with the contemplation of the vanity of human wishes. Parliament of Birds or Parliament of the Fowls, written in 1380, which introduces the reader into one of the most popular genres of medieval literature, the bird and the beast fable. Legend of Good Women. It was written in 1385, which is about the unhappy fate of women who suffered in the cause of love. There come some other works, Italian works of Chaucer, which are the Complaint unto Pity, Complaint of Mass, Queen Anilida, and the ABC. Then comes his final and third period, that is English period. In English period, he wrote Canterbury Tales, that is his unfinished work, his finest and most original masterpiece. This is an illustration of Canterbury Tales. The Canterbury Tales. These are some of the characters of Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. Canterbury Tales, although work was never completed, the Canterbury Tales is considered one of the greatest works in English language. Chaucer began to write it in 1387 but died in 1400. The narrator meets 30 pilgrims at the Tabard Inn in London and travels with them to the shrine of St. Thomas Becket in Canterbury. The host of the inn suggests that each pilgrim should tell 2 stories while going to Canterbury and 2 on the way back. Whoever can tell the best tale wins a dinner at the inn when they get back, courtesy of the other travelers. Harry Bailey, the innkeeper, promised a free meal for the best storyteller. In structure, prologue and 24 stories intended to have more than 100 stories and kept unfinished and handed down in manuscripts. While the genre of the Canterbury Tales as a whole is a frame narrative, the general prologue to the Canterbury Tales is an example of state satire, a genre which satirizes the abuses that occur within the 3 traditional states, in particular the clergy. Prologue serves as a brief introduction to enable readers to have a general view of the whole content. Among the 24 individual stories, 2 in prose, 22 in verse form. Prose tales are the tale of Melibea, which is the second tale told by Chaucer himself. Second is Parson's Tale. Chaucer started writing Canterbury Tales in 1386, planned 120 tales, completed 22 and 2 fragments. Prologue had 24 complete, 4 incomplete tales. Chaucer presents the whole world as he sees it. Over 17,000 lines written in Middle English. Peasant revolt was mentioned in Nun's Priest's Tale. Allusion of Black Death in The Doctor of Physics. Lollard moment gets allusion in Parson's Tale. Idealized character in the prologue were or are the knight, the plowman, and the poor parson. Here we find the route to Canterbury Tale. We can see people or all the pilgrims were staying here in the Tabard Inn, London, and they will en route to Canterbury through this way. Characters in the prologue to the Canterbury Tales are described by their job, the type and color of their clothing, their accessories like jewelry, pets, and other portables, the way they act, their income, by their secrets, their status in society as a whole, the way they speak, their slang or accent, their mode of transportation. Thank you very much.